I know some of you have come to listen about other projects, like the Access project. I haven't heard anything new on the Access project. So it's where it was the last time we talked about it. I have no idea what's happening with Duffy's. All I know is they're demolishing it. I haven't met with anybody. I don't know what any of those projects look like. So I have no information on that. The other one is this Article 11 for our the Charter Review Committee. So the Charter Review Committee has been meeting for months, and they're going over all of the articles in our charter. They're making a decision on, is this good, is this bad, does this need to be tweaked, does this need to be in the charter, whatever the case may be. So their last meeting, their meetings are every other Thursday. So the next meeting is Thursday, April 16th at 7 o'clock, and it's going to be right here. So the last meeting I actually attended to, and they discussed Article 11. So Article 11 is an article that restricts the development of properties on our barrier island. So how I see it is there's three options for Article 11. Leave it exactly like it is, leave it in the charter and tweak it, or take it out and move it to zoning. As far as I know, those are the three options. I don't know what the Charter Review Committee is going to recommend to the commission. But once they make all of their recommendations to the commission will look at all of their recommendations. If the commission thinks that it's a good idea, then we'll put it on a ballot. And then I will get one vote, just like everybody in this room, to decide what happens with whatever article and whatever tweaks the Charter Review Committee recommends. If the majority of the residents vote to change that article, then the article will be changed. If they don't, it will stay exactly like it is. So there's really nothing that I can do or say about that. It's going to be up to the residents. I don't know what changes their recommendation. I only went to one meeting, which was the last one because it was a very important article. So that's what I know about those articles. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is the first thing that we're going to talk about. And again, I'll save questions for after each topic. So we have two topics. The first one is the police and fire transition. So let's talk a little bit about that one. A little bit of history. As everybody knows, the city has been in a partnership with BSO for many years, both police and fire. So back in June, we received their consideration letter, which requested a 10% and 11% increase in the cost. Right now, it's slated to be $79 million. It's over 50% of our general fund. So the city pushed back and said, we have an agreement that says the cap is 5%. And BSO said, either take the 10 and 11% increase, or we're going to terminate the contract. So the city decided to terminate the contract. Now, why did the city decide to do that? If we cannot control 50%, over 50% of our costs, what are we here for? So it's vitally important that the city has an opportunity to control cost for the taxpayers. It's your money, it's not my money. So that's why the decision was made to do a feasibility study to see if we could fiscally be responsible and take over police and fire. Now, the first thing we wanted to do was just take over one of those operations. We wanted to take over police and leave fire the way it is under BSO to make sure that everything works right. BSO said, no, you don't have that option. You either take both or keep both with BSO. So we decided, all right, we'll take both. So that's what started this process. Now, the feasibility study was just to see if the city had the financial capability to take on police and fire. Now, other individuals are going to say, well, Pompano did a study. They spent $300,000 on a study. Why did their decision come back different? Well, first of all, they did a like-for-like study. They spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, spent about, 6 months to a year on a study to see if they replicate the exact same services that BSO is providing right now, what would the cost would be, and can they do it cheaper? That means 3 SWAT trucks, 3 SWAT teams. That means bringing in their own dispatch. That means every person that is associated with their police department has a gun. The HR department, the HR director, everybody. So that's their model. That's the model that they want to pursue. At the end of the day, their city manager recommended not bringing in our own police department, but let's extend BSO for 1 year and let's do an additional study to make sure this is the proper course of action.
That sounds smart.
He was concerned about what's going to happen in Tallahassee. You know, there's talks about eliminating the property tax. Well, I can tell you that if they eliminate property tax in Tallahassee, cities are going to find other ways in order to fund the things that you need. The police, the fire, the storm drainage, all of the services that you need costs money. And cities will find that money somewhere.
Where?
So does that change our decision? It really doesn't. There's also a lot of things that we already pay for to BSO that we're just going to pay for us. Right now we pay over $1 million a year for the vehicles. All of those vehicles, we pay BSO over $1 million a year. Do we get those vehicles? Hopefully BSO will give us those vehicles that we pay for. That's a negotiation that we're still going to have to go through. But we're also looking for different grants so that the tax burden isn't solely on the residents of Deerfield Beach. Myself and a couple of my contemporaries were up in Washington, D.C. last week, and we met with the Department of Justice with regards to different grants that we are going to apply for, that we are eligible for. One of them is for $3.7 million for vehicles. We also met with our state legislator. We met with Jared Moskowitz, and he is going to sponsor a $3 million grant for the city, for both the vehicles as well as the cameras, the body-worn cameras. So there is money out there that the city is looking for in order to make sure that the burden is not all on the residents of Deerfield Beach. So that's just a little background about BSO. And Deerfield Beach is different from Pompano. Deerfield Beach is 25 square miles. Pompano is 25 square miles. Deerfield is 16 square miles. So they're much larger. They have 20,000 residents. We have 90,000 residents. Again, they're about 30% larger. They also want 244 police officers, where our model says we can match what BSO had, about 144 officers. Their crime rate is 3 times what ours is. So they have a lot of more challenges. Maybe that's why they want the 3 SWAT trucks. I don't know. But that's their city, and they want to move their city as they feel best. Deerfield Beach is our city, and we've made a different decision. And we still feel very confident that this is the best path for our residents in our city. A lot has gone into this decision, and I'm going to go ahead and bring up our CFO so that he can talk a little bit about some of the financing behind and what he has done to crunch the numbers to make sure that this is something that is viable for our residents in our city. So after Oleg, then we'll have Sean Gladio, who's going to give us an update on where we're at on all of the processes that we're following. And then we'll also have our city manager, Rodney Brimlow, talk a little bit about some of those things. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce Oleg. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Oleg Verachovsky, Chief Financial Officer for the city. As we indicated at February 17 meeting and also posted on the city website, the estimated implementation costs will include capital equipment startup cost, initial operating costs, and additional costs. and additional costs such as overlap costs, support staff, and inflationary estimated costs. The current overall implementation cost for 2 years is expected to be an amount of $30.1 million, of which $10.1 million expected to be incurred in the current year prior to September 30th, and $20 million for 27 for next year. We were very clear up front. The projected numbers are estimates, and I did state it in my presentation. And they may change pending the contracts and procurement. Also, I stated in February meeting, the estimated technology and equipment startup costs were built in with additional increase to inflation cost, and we build in approximately 10%. Additionally, I know there's concerns with what's going on in the Middle East, and I want to reassure you that we closely monitoring the impact. But not just for implementation of this project, public safety, but also for overall city operations. These types of events are unpredictable, and there are future impacts to the city. And so with that, I want to also state that if you remember, and thanks to the city commissioner's guidance and approval, the city increased its emergency reserves last year in 2026 budget from $5 million to $7.5 million, specifically for these situations. So now some specific categories. So we'd expect that the city will need $20.5 million in capital equipment startup costs. And that includes vehicles, body armor, weapons, part of gear and uniforms, and technology. Equipment will be acquired through financing options, such as equipment financing, leasing, vendor financing, or bank loan. We're currently evaluating those options, and it will depend, as you know, on the best available cost to finance for the city. It is expected that the city will need $4.1 million in initial operating costs. That will include transitional chiefs and their staff, consumables, and stock items for fire department, and also pre-employment assessment costs. Approximately $310,000 are expected to be spent in the current year. That number actually may be lower because as we progress further and we have less time left in this fiscal year, the amount of money we're going to spend on initial chiefs coming in, the transitional chiefs, as well as their staff, is going to be lower than that. The rest, $3.8 million, is expected to be incurred in 2027. In abundance of caution, and I mentioned that in February, to prevent potential risk of not funding enough, these estimates incorporate the following additional expected cost. Overlap cost. So there'll be a point when onboarding, hiring of city staff will need to be trained while continue receiving services from BSO. And that's estimated about $4 million. The city support cost, or finance, HR, IT, maintenance, and other, will need additional staff to support this operation. And that approximately for 26, for the current year, will be about $350,000. That number is also much less than that. We made some movements. Some position will not be required until next year. Now, it's important to remember that part of the BSO budget with us, there is an associated cost for their overhead cost. So that will be almost a swap from what we pay to BSO right now. We're going to be paying less to the support staff within the city. And as I mentioned last time, there is a positions that have been identified to be eliminated, vacancies, in order to pay for the support positions. For the current year, those position elimination will be reoccurring savings, which we use for next year as well. And of course, there's inflation cost. And so the allocation includes $1.1 million for 2027 for additional potential inflation increases. So to summarize, over the next 18 months, $20.5 million are estimated in capital equipment startup cost, 4.1 initial operating cost, and 5.5 for additional costs such as overlap and inflation. The very next level of expenditures you will see will be the hiring transitional chiefs and shortly after some of their immediate staff. And finally, I wanted to mention that the city, and the commission already discussed that, the city is pursuing various grants, such as public safety equipment, such as body camera program and public safety vehicles. There's also, we're going after cops hiring program, particularly emphasized for the senior retired officers and military veterans. Community policing, de-escalation training, active shooter training, law enforcement, mental health, wellness, just to mention some. And that's Commissioner, I'll pass it on to Sean to continue public safety.
Okay.
Well, good evening, everybody. Can everybody hear me okay?
No.
Okay, that means I have to stand in front of this thing, sorry. So, good evening, my name's Sean Gladio, I am your Director of Public Safety. And what I wanted to do, Mr. Oleg gave you a pretty great update. He actually stole some of my talking points and I was striking through those and trying to consider some other things to provide to you. The most significant thing I think I want to convey to you is that this will be your police and fire department. It's not Sean Gladio's police and fire department. It's not the commission's police and fire department. It's not Rodney Brimlow's police and fire department. It's the residents of Deerfield Beach. I didn't have a vote. The city manager didn't have a vote. But the commission did. And the commission voted. Now it's our duty and responsibility to follow through on the voted resolution. That's what I'm here to do, to the best of my ability. But I cannot do that alone. No one human could. And we've brought on a transition manager named John Bucata. I will introduce him at the next commission meeting on Tuesday. John is taking many tasks and working alongside me to facilitate the process that we need to accomplish to stand up our organization no later than October 1st, 2027. In addition, we retained a multiple decade experienced fire services professional, highly decorated, highly recognized, in Richard Rusty Severs, who was also the emergency management coordinator for the city of Deerfield Beach. Those two individuals are true subject matter experts in this field. John worked for the Broward County Sheriff's Office. Rusty's been the chief of multiple fire departments and is well known throughout Southern Florida. And as we continue to compile this team, it's important to understand that all we want to do is to do the best by you and do the best for you. And all I ask is you can disagree with the vote. You can disagree with not having the vote. I hope one day you will somehow turn that energy into assisting us making the best Deerfield Beach Police and Fire Department we possibly can. So a couple other things. We are currently actively recruiting we call it a transitional police and fire chief. Those applications are ongoing. We've seen a great response to those, and we anticipate that closing within the next several days. After that, in the month of April, we will be conducting interviews after we review those candidates to ensure they meet the qualifications specified in the job posting. If anyone likes to Google Deerfield Beach Transitional Police or Transitional Fire Chief, all of the posting is right there. Salary, everything. So I encourage you, if you haven't and you'd like to, it's all there, it's all public, it's all readily available. Like I said, those candidates that we feel are worthy of an interview will be interviewed in the month of April. And we fully intend, depending on the candidate's obligations, in other words, if they're currently, let's just say theoretically, a fire chief in a different municipality or a police chief in a different municipality, their availability given their current commitments or contractual obligations, we intend for them to be on staff and onboarded sometime in May. That's the update on that front. We continue to have conversations with all potential vendors that would have to provide any and all equipment to your police and fire departments to ensure A, supply chains are readily available, B, those timeframes have not been exaggerated due to the geopolitical concerns and inactions currently going on, and C, cost escalations are mitigated as much as possible. Just to give you one example, and I do not want to mention the vendor, he reached out to me today on the law enforcement side, or not today, it was a couple days ago, and said they were going to hold their pricing until the end of the year for us. So these are the conversations that we're trying to have. These are your tax dollars that myself, the city manager, and Mr. Oleg are doing our best to try to stretch and make go as far as we possibly can without sacrificing any of the tools, any of the equipment, any of the life safety necessities needed or required to provide excellent service to you and to every citizen and visitor of Deerfield Beach. Additionally, we continue to reach out to our public safety partners. Matter of fact, just this week, I was up in Boca, and Assistant Chief Roop, they call him Ruppy, R-U-P-P, was gracious enough to invite me up. I toured the Boca Raton fire training facility, their burn tower, and a lot of the training class that they have, their vehicle facility base that they utilize, and a lot of their different options that we can also begin to utilize for our professional firefighters. That's in addition to going down to Coral Springs. That's in addition to talking to Pompano. That's in addition to talking to Jupiter. That's in addition to talking to Coconut Creek and a lot of other municipalities and organizations. So we're reaching out, ensuring that we're developing relationships with our public safety partners, our municipal partners, and continuing to have relationships with our county partners. Because in the end, folks, we all soar to one mission. The code of ethics in public safety are the same. I don't care if you're policing in Washington or Florida. They are the same. 21st century policing is the same, no matter if you're in Maine or you're in Texas. The last thing that I want to inform the community about is, and this is going to be on social media, it's going to be on the City of Deerfield Beach website, and I'm sure some of our, and those are going to be everywhere beginning April, and we talked about these, and I know the mayor may have been on social media previously saying that they were going to start potentially this week. We looked at the Easter holiday, we looked at all religious types of things. We did not want to necessarily start and then stop. So we made a decision, the deputy city manager, the city manager, and myself, that it would be best to delay these till after the Easter holiday. So we are starting these on April 16th. They're going to be in the evenings. They're going to be in the afternoons. And there even is going to be a couple few in the mornings. So we are going to engage our community as often as possible, whether it's at the Tigner Center, whether it's at Hillsborough Tech, whether it's at the West Deerfield Community Center, whether it's at Constitution Park or Highlands Park or City Hall. And we're going to do it in the morning, in the afternoon, and the evening. But my promise to you is my phone number is available to each and every one of you. My email is available to each and every one of you. I would love to have a cup of coffee, a phone call, a stroll in the park, whatever it is, wherever you feel comfortable, and you would like to tell me what your vision is, what you would like to see, how you would like your officers to respond to certain issues. I welcome those conversations. I ask you for them. And that's all I can do. So we look forward to our community participation. And we will be posting those, like I said. Dave and our public affairs and marketing team will be posting those. They'll be on social media, they'll be on our public safety website, and I'm sure the commissioners will be sharing those out with their constituents as well. Those are the updates in addition to what Mr. Oleg said. I thank you for your time this evening.
Rodney Brimlow, the city manager. Just to follow up on what you just heard, the community engagement meetings that are coming up are extremely important because, and you know, I heard some chuckles and stuff like that, but they really are important because we're using the information coming from them. They're going to be very interactive with charrettes and with communication in small groups so that we can get from the community specific things that they're looking for. It might be something as simple as what the design features are of a particular item, all the way up to the types of patrol that the community is looking for. And we will provide some educational opportunity there for us to describe to you what those are, but then also to get from you what it is that the community actually needs and wants. And not everybody has the same needs and wants. You know, it might be, you know, you're not going to get ATV patrols through, you know, Century Village, for example, but there may be ATV patrols that are on the beach for whatever reason. So it's to get the information that you're looking for and where you see what the things are that you have liked about your police and fire services that need to be continued. What are the things that you have seen where there were opportunities that could be better on the police and fire services that you've seen, so that we can incorporate those into the models that we're developing throughout the summer. So the staff that both of them had mentioned will be coming on board throughout the summer, and they will be utilizing all of that information that's coming in from the residents to both develop and modify policies, as well as the actual procedures for how we're going to form patrol, for example, on the police side, and how we'll be doing responses on the fire side. As an example, we do see, some of you may know, last year the state of Florida passed a law that basically was the strongest encouragement it could be to change fire schedules. So currently there are many departments that have a 1 on, 2 off for fire. They work a 24-hour day, then they're off for 2 days, then they come back for a 24-hour day, and then they're off for 2 days. However, the state of Florida last year passed a resolution that said, no, that is not the healthiest model for fire rescue, and fire rescue needs to be on a 1 day off followed by 3 days off. And so, you know, the city had been going through all of the modeling programs and the financial impacts from that, and that is pretty much, if you're looking around in the county, you'll see places like Boca Raton already transitioned to that. Other cities in Palm Beach County already transitioned to that. And I believe Palm Beach County and Dade County are both going to transition to that model for staffing. So for us, it might not be something that comes from the public, but it's something that we look at because we know from a recruitment and a retention aspect, if we stayed on the model that was the 1 day on, 2 days off, we're not going to be able to get the best candidates for fire rescue. So as an example, we will be following the model that the state recommends, that the state passed by resolution. That is a 1 day on followed by 3 days off. So it's 24 on and 72 off. But those kinds of things are all being factored in, but there are things that are going to come from the public as well. Yeah, maybe we all should have been firefighters at some point, but that's not where we are, and we want to continue to develop our internal policies, our internal procedures, and even to the level of scheduling and how we're doing recruiting. A lot of the initial information that's going to come from the charrette type interactions is also going to help inform our interview processes for new hires. So there are certain qualifications that you can't get around. You know, the fire rescue employees have certain qualifications, law enforcement have different ones, but those mandatory qualifications have to be there. But what's coming from these public interactions also will aid us in the interview processes moving forward to ensure that not just those minimum qualifications are met by our employees, but we want to make sure that alignment with the community is also being met when we're hiring people. So that's a large portion. So I encourage everyone here, and I encourage the rest of the community to definitely make time to at least come to one or two or whatever of the public meetings that we're gonna have. That's it.
Thank you.
All right, now we're gonna open it up to questions for BSO topic. So Rodney and Sean, you may be asked some questions I don't know. So, does anybody have a question with regard?
Commend you guys for doing a great job.
Thank you.
And I think that the problem that there is that this should have been done ahead of time, not as a reaction, okay? And the question that I have is, for District 1, how do you know what the people of District 1 want?
With regards to police and
Anything,
fire?
anything, your choice, pick a topic. How do you know what the people of District 1 want?
Well, my number is online. I'm holding these meetings. I'm meeting with
Look, this is
residents.
the first meeting I have ever heard you put on. The others were asked by communities.
Right.
No, I've had, over the years, I've had numerous meetings.
I'm sure. And they're advertised well, right? I don't
And they're
know.
advertised well, and they're in here, and they're at 7 o'clock. Yes, sir.
Sure. Okay, so at what point,
In fact, the last meeting you were at, because it was specifically on the Access Project, and it was in here.
it was upstairs.
No, we also had one down here.
So,
So you have been to my meetings, so you do know that they're there.
yeah, I know, we called for a
Okay.
meeting.
And
We
we
called
also
you and
had
asked
one
for a
down here.
meeting, okay? My point is that as a representative of District 1,
Yeah.
you should know what the people of District 1 want, and you can't unless you ask them. They should not have to pursue you. We elected you
They
to
don't.
represent us.
That's correct.
And there is no, I have never heard of, I didn't even know about this meeting. I wasn't even notified about this.
Well, there's a newsletter, there's social media, you're obviously here.
I'm here because my neighbors told me.
Me too.
Well,
Me
I'm
that's
too.
pointing a problem out to you and you love to deflect that. And that
I'm
seems to
not
be the
deflecting
problem.
it. We are-
You have broken your promises to us on a land use change. You've changed the zoning. You were the pivot vote in both of those. And you changed the zoning. There's no compatibility and you changed it. You might remember, we went to court and we sued you and we lost. But we were right in what we were talking about. You never once even pointed out anything that was going on to us.
I
Not
pointed out,
once.
we even had meetings at the church over there, I was there.
I'm sorry, no, that was the developer that had the
And
meetings.
I was there in
And yeah, you were
attendance to
there, but
listen. That's correct.
you did not inform anybody prior to any of this. This could have been shortchanged because in District 1, the people that you elect should have a say-so in what gets done in District 1. And you should
course.
come back and you should hold that voice in this commission meeting. you
And I
have-
do.
No, you have not. You
Okay.
came with a prepared statement, even after being warned by the attorney, that you had to, everything that you heard was out the window and only what you heard that night, when we had all the attorneys here. And you had a prepared statement. You read a prepared in that statement, I actually remember you saying you were legally bound, which is not true.
I was legally bound
To
because
vote
of
in
that
favor of that
quasi-hearing.
access project.
Because of that if they did not violate anything, I was legally bound,
Sir,
yes.
they didn't even qualify for it.
They did qualify for it.
They did not. You went from a
Okay.
compatibility issue. of
All right, so now we're gonna
RM10
go
to
on-
RM15 to RM65.
Okay, so now we're gonna talk about the 8th Street Storm Drainage Project, because that's what individuals are here for.
Hey. Who's that guy?
Okay.
Is there a termination date for the BSO?
I believe the termination date for BSO is October 1st?
Oh, yeah.
September 30th. 27.
The annual budget.
Did you know him?
Pro forma project.
He's my neighbor.
Are you over?
We're
Annual budget.
near the elementary school.
Okay, this gentleman's question.
I know.
What's the BSO on? What is the annual budget projected?
I figured.
Including CapEx, let's say.
Oh, well, the CapEx
What is the annual budget? Running,
The question was, what was the annual budget for and the CapEx for after BSO? So we were talking about October of 28, or October of 27, sorry, October of 27. So, part of what will determine the annual budget will be how we end up financing, for example, the vehicles. You have two options with vehicles, that you know, like, sort of like we do.
Let's say the operating costs first, the operating costs.
Oh, the operating cost, do you have it, Sean, with you?
For FY twenty-seven.
For 27, for FY 28, FY 28.
I don't have it for FY twenty.
I can get, we didn't bring the whole folder, but the operating is somewhere around 10 million less than BSO.
79 million.
Yes.
That's recurring CapEx.
In right now, just as an example, I think the commissioner may have mentioned it, but right now we pay into capital for BSO, so.
In the 79 million.
In the 79 million, so, like over $1 million is on the police vehicle side. The city appropriates separate capital money for the fire side, that has nothing, it doesn't go through BSO. And then, you have other capital items, like for example, the radios, they're very expensive. Certain technologies are very expensive. Those things we already pay as part of the contract. So that's already included in that 79, and it would already be included in about the 67, 68 million.
So essentially it may be 10 million less, is that what I'm hearing?
On that first year, probably, yes. Mhm.
Alice, you can say, does the city fund the executive recovery costs that the city keeps? Is like one fire truck could be $3 million. Is that something that you fund that depreciation going forward, that you have in the city budget?
We have done that. We have been doing that. We currently do that. Yeah, we currently do that. And just, yeah, they're about 1.4 million for that, yeah.
They'll be 2 million before.
Yeah, I know they will.
But you have capital.
Yes,
coverage.
and we have been doing that for many years
You
now.
have a balance in there for capital expense.
Correct, correct. And I think there are only really 2 cities that I know of that have full complements of their fire vehicles. I think it's Deerfield and Weston, might be Cooper City now too. But there was a movement in recent years for the cities to start to take on that cost so that it wasn't spiking some of the contract costs. Yeah. Mhm.
So they own the fire trucks?
Yes.
You own the fire trucks?
Yes.
Okay, the ones you have now?
Yeah, so we own the rescue trucks and the fire trucks and a couple of spares.
So you need
What about the firehouses? Don't you own them?
Yes.
So you just need people for that?
Well, people, equipment, supplies,
Yeah.
yes, all of that.
Alright,
Mhm.
well, you have to buy fire trucks.
Correct. Another consideration that we have to look at. So all of that's to say that the cost is essentially gonna be the same. It's a matter of how we end up spreading it out. And it effectively is not going to exceed what we're already spending on it.
But we have current expenses we still have to pay, so that's the challenge. It's not like one goes away and the other one happens, you have overlapping costs. So me as a homeowner, the head of a household, or the head of a business, I kind of plan all this stuff out ahead of time before I make the leap financially. And that's what gives a lot of us apprehension here. It feels like, you get out when you're looking for grants now, you're negotiating with someone with equipment today.
No, the negotiations and the equipment stuff has been going on, and there are numerous state contracts that already exist. So some of the expenses that we're talking about are not even going to be until Deliver. And Deliver is gonna be, yes, next fiscal year, but the funds that are set aside for those will be funds that we are either not paying to BSO or funds that we are absorbing through the cost savings to BSO. So right now, as Mr. Hurst pointed out, we're being billed on actual costs. The actual costs are supposed to be for the actual services that are being provided in the city. So BSO will continue to charge us those actual costs, and as those months go by and as those purchases go by, part of our team already is communicating with BSO on what we do not need to buy. For example, in December, it would be ludicrous for the city to buy 12 new police vehicles in January of 27 for BSO. Right? I mean, I think everyone would agree with that. That we should not be buying brand new vehicles for BSO in January of 27. So those kinds of things, so that is $1 million there, that if you're amortizing out the cost of the vehicles, that's $1 million that you have on the vehicle cost. So there is gonna be overlap, there's no doubt. We did account for that. How much was the overlap?
$4 million.
About 4 million? About $4 million in the overlap. Yeah, yeah.
And that's coming from the general fund, plus the 10 head count?
I'm sorry, say,
That's coming from the general fund and the 10 head count that we're not funding? Is that what you're saying?
what's the 10 head count?
I heard somebody say that there were 10 head count that weren't being filled, or that were taken out,
Vacancies.
that aren't going to be.
So, if anyone was involved in the budget process last year, you might remember that we did some efficiencies in the city. We actually, last year, the budget was reduced by about $62.5 million. The reorganization of some of the departments in the city have led to also some efficiencies. I will give you an example. It's an example that I'm kind of embarrassed about, but it's a real example. Has anyone been to the Kirk Control Pavilion? Okay. When I was selected to be the city manager, it always bothered me that at Kirk Control Pavilion, there are 3 garbage cans that you can see from that pavilion. There's one under the pavilion, there's one right outside the pavilion, and there's one in the bathroom. That was 3 different departments. Now it's 1. So instead of having 3 different people having to go out to empty a garbage can, you have one person who empties the one, empties the other, maybe empties it into the first one and does that. So there were a lot of efficiencies that were done. We had multiple duplicative efforts in different departments. We consolidated a lot of that. This whole year, we've been analyzing the needs of those additional positions and whether we actually needed them before. I guess if you have 3 people emptying the garbage cans that are within 12 feet of each other, all right, you're gonna need 3 people to do that. We only need 1. So there are things of efficiency that we've been doing continuously throughout the last year and a half to work on our own efficiencies, and there are savings from that. Those savings this year, 600, about 600,000 there, and then that's a recurring cost that goes into the following year with the COLA offset, with the merit increase and all that kind of stuff. So it is a recurring cost that now is a savings to the city. So those areas there are offsetting a lot of the costs also that we're using.
Yes, sir.
Kind of following up with that other gentleman that said right before he left is, I'm trying to gauge how you quantify the feedback from your constituents. You say that this is what the majority of your constituents want, right, was this move to DSO.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering how you quantify that. Is there some method that you use to track how many people said yay and how many people said nay? And can you actually produce that? Is it like email?
But the city has asked
mostly
numerous
conversations
times
with people that I've
for
talked to.
residents to upgrade their swells should they like. We have a tree program and we'd like everybody to participate if
We
you
want
like.
our palm trees
And we can
back.
talk about that when Eric gets up here as well, but it's important that you take advantage of that.
Hi, Richard.
AE flood zone.
I don't,
Some of those homes are in an AE flood zone. And when you purchase those homes, I hope you were notified of that, because legally, you were to be notified of that. If you weren't notified of that, you really need to seek an attorney and talk.
Their
to
charters may be
the
different than
person you
ours,
bought it with,
and
entitled
that might be the reason.
just to
I
make
don't
sure
know
that
those
you're
cities or
protected.
why they
Because
did it
those
that way.
homes- a lot of those homes
But
are
our
very
charter
low.
does not,
They're,
this
you
is not a
know,
referendum
right at the
item
water
for
table
our
or a
city.
few feet above it, so that's
Yes,
just
and
something to think about.
there are requirements
access
for
to your
referenda
backyards.
on various
So,
items, but this
as
is
you know,
not one
there's
of them.
that
This is not in the
drainage
charter
field
as a
behind your
referendum
yards.
item.
The city needs access to those to make sure that they're maintained. We need to
I would
make
agree.
this system as efficient as possible. And
I
if
would
those,
agree.
if there are barriers in those, that easement behind your houses, then we're adversely affecting the situation. So please, if city staff comes out to clean them, give them access. Make sure when you're doing your gardening and you're in your backyards, that they're free of tree roots and stuff like that. Let us know so we can make sure that this system is as efficient as we can possibly get it. I'm gonna go ahead and bring Eric up here, so he's got a little presentation for you. Talk about what we've done, what we're doing, what we can do to protect your homes.
But we also have, in this particular circumstance, you have a contract service that was canceled by the contract service
But I know
provider.
that when my flood homes,
So
my home
it doesn't really
floods,
matter
your home floods as well.
what anybody thinks,
So,
those services
I'm
are
gonna
in.
come up here, he's gonna talk about where we're at with the lawsuit, where we're at with different options.
To your
and
point,
also
ma'am,
some
the city
grants
has
we're
to
looking at
provide those
creating
services.
to help you,
So
you know,
if the person providing those services is not gonna provide them anymore,
should something.
the city has to
when the
make
next
that
rainstorm
determination.
comes. They say these are every 10-year rainstorms or 100-year rainstorms. I must be 300 years old because I've been through 3 of them at least. So I just want to make sure that everybody gets Eric's presentation, and then we'll have some questions on that.
Thank you, everyone. Eric Power, Deputy City Manager. So I do have a presentation to go through. I really thought about the best way to do this presentation for everyone. The last time we all met, we had a lot of public forum and comment, and it was apparent to me that there was some confusion over, how the system works, what the project was about, what the city can and can't do. And I want to spend some time just sort of trying to explain some of those things and talk about what we've won percent. But this is the way they express it. So I just want to make sure we all understand that. It actually has nothing to do with like, oh, every 100 years it's gonna be a flood. And that's what I think. But, it's just a percentage chance. And so, I don't want to belabor what happened in October, because I know I'm upset about all of it too. But it was a freak event, right? I mean, we had 8 inches of rain in a 2-hour period. That's not happened before. The previous events that have happened along this roadway happened during major summer storms or hurricanes, where you had, tons of rain over hours and hours and hours of time, right? This was a completely condensed storm of 8 inches of rain over a 2-hour period. It overwhelmed the system.
Right, and those are all legitimate concerns that we have to make sure, that I have to make sure that my staff and that the people that are being brought on board are able to supply to the city, the quality that you're talking about. The, in regard to, just to, I don't wanna go backwards and go through the history of it, because I do whatever I'm told to do. I have 5 bosses, and when 3 of them decide, 3 or more of them decide one thing, that's what I have to do. But with regard to the 5%, the only considerations for reducing the 5%, there was no consideration of reductions at all on the fire department, which was 11%. There were no considerations to reduce that at all.
From the intercoastal,
On
literally moves into
the
your
police
pipe
side,
at high time.
the considerations that were offered to
Just like,
reduce the
it's a
number
different amount of
was
time, because obviously
associated
high
with
tide
a reduction in
takes longer to
positions.
get to the intercoastal, longer to get
So
to the
it,
longer
and
hours.
I
It's
could
not
give
as
you a 30% discount if I wanted to,
the elements are not
and
as
you may not
dramatic as
want that
beach, but it's
if
still
you,
what happens.
on the other side of that, there's a
Again,
reduction
high tide
in the
event,
number of
you're gonna
positions.
see water in those drains. In a high tide event, you're not gonna be able to get
There've been the public conversation, I think every single commission meeting since last May has had public comment.
12 hours of high tide and 12 hours of low tide. So I don't like those hours.
Not for me to listen, it's for your elected officials to listen, but yes.
So most people's stormwater is gravity driven, right? The higher point goes to the lower point, and that's how the water works. And we just talked about, you're the lowest area, right? You're even below the crown of the road. You're the lowest area, you're literally the bottom of the bowl. So the water has a difficult time leaving because it's lower than the point, right? So there's, again, minimal energy, right? So when you talk, obviously you think about it, you have water here, you have water down there, it moves fast, right? There's not a lot of energy going back and forth. That tide influence, it comes in kind of slow, it goes out kind of slow. Only during the
Plus, I also have an obligation to every resident in District 1, and if we cannot control our costs, our taxes go up.
There's lower portions of the pipe, they'll always have water in there, and some of your residents have sent me photos of that.
Well, now at least the city will have control over those increases.
When it comes
When
down
we were
to-
with BSO, we didn't have control, because the first contract was 2 years, no increase, no caps at all. The second contract was 5 years, the first 2 years, no salary cap, and then, years 3, 4, and 5, there'll be a cap, but we're gonna do
No,
a salary study
never
to
been
see
there.
if that still
But
holds
This
true.
is the outfall.
So
that
in reality, the
serves your
city
area, but
had no
services
control
almost all
over the
sections
costs.
of Deerfield.
When Commissioner Shinesky was up here, he asked the sheriff 3 times, if we have a 2-year contract and we agree to all of the costs and parameters in that contract, will you honor it? The sheriff said, I can't say that. How can you go into an agreement with somebody who will not honor the contract they're gonna sign?
And this is where it is a high tide.
Yeah, you are.
Okay, good.
High tide. and low tide. I wanna
There
point
was
this
no
out.
negotiation. He would not honor the contract. You had a question,
You
ma'am?
can see
Yes, I would
that
like to
water has
know,
gone
as a
to a higher
resident
point
of
at this
Deerfield,
rate than
how
even these
much
3 examples. And I
my
know it's kind of hard to see. I apologize for that.
are
I will
gonna
always
go up.
available to anybody who wants to see
When
it.
you're talking
But I
millions
made
of
this also here
dollars,
just so
I
you can
don't
see
care
like
about
the difference between the low
millions, I
tide and the
call
high
it care
tide
about
is
hundreds
almost
of
2 feet.
dollars.
Not
I'm
just on a
paying a
regular
lot
day.
of taxes
During king
now,
tide or other
and I have
days,
no
during a
say.
storm event, when the water is
Nothing. I
pushing
go
in, when
to
the wind's blowing
commission
from the east,
meetings,
which it normally
I
does.
go to all
it
of
can be higher.
the meetings
And
they
that's what's
had.
forcing
Everybody
the
is
stormwater
upset with
to
this
stay where it is,
city
right? It's
commission
not coming out.
because we
It's-
have
it's
no
pushing
say.
against you.
Nobody can tell me
So,
if my
we have a recently
taxes
installed
in
drainage system,
20
right? The point of this system
27 are
essentially
gonna
was
go up
for higher stormwater
$1,000.
capacity.
Well, the city manager just said that the costs for police and fire will be reduced by 10 million. But we can't say that that's good. Go ahead.
So we take that low tide.
I will tell you this, because we did look at the increases on the 2 years from BSO and what that impact would be. That was roughly a little over a 15 or almost a $16 million increase from BSO would be for the 2-year timeframe. That's a mill.
That's incorrect. I want to explain that.
That would go
Right,
from
so it's not just
6.0018
French
to
drain. What a French drain
7.0018.
basically
So
is a percolation device. right?
if
Whether this
we
is
had-
just
if we had,
it's grass,
entered
rocks,
into that
it's
agreement,
infrastructure,
we might very well be
you're
talking
allowing
about
water
an
to trickle down at a
increase
slower
of
rate.
upwards of a
It's
mill
going into a
on the
perforated
taxes,
pipe, and
which
the
is
pipe
somewhere
stays.
around,
This
17%
is what
increase
we
in the
built.
tax.
We built storage capacity. Okay, so the water's going into your regular manhole, and then it's percolating through a large rock
But-
system.
And that comes from the tax revenue, when you divide the tax revenue that we get on ad valorem taxes, divided by the total number of properties, and then in order to accommodate the $16 million increase for the first 2 years, and then, of course, there's increases from there, that increase is about 1 mil.
Because there's nowhere else for it to go.
Well,
I recognize the pain that year plus was on all of you. And I apologize for all of it. It wasn't my project, but we worked as hard as we could to make it right. We are in the middle of a lawsuit. I cannot talk about it, but I think you understand why. And as more of that goes on, you'll know about it. But at the moment, I can't discuss it. But the problem.
Well, just to give you an example
with
on
project versus storm that we had in
those
October
costs.
Was that this was never designed.
Every fire position
Does this system work? Yes,
that
it works.
BSO has
It
in
works.
Deerfield Beach,
It doesn't
we're
mean it's
charged
the same
an
amount of water
overhead
that we had in
of
October.
about
It does
almost
hold
$11,000
And-
per head.
I'm over at your street.
And in addition to that,
Second
another
rates.
over
The other
$700,000
day, there's
for
more rain
overhead.
here on
So
Eller
it's like
than there was on
2.4
8.
million or
And I'm
2.6
looking
million
at
in that
that
range.
In a way, happy, but
That's
also
that's
way
just the
like
overhead
upset,
cost
because
for
I'm
that. That's
recognizing that
personnel
even
cost.
though
That's a
it's
personnel
still
cost that
raining,
doesn't
you have the water going
exist.
to the drain, it's not enough.
We don't need to
This
charge
is
an
not enough.
overhead
This project is
on
not enough
our
to
own
fix the
employees.
Situation that's there.
That's, so, that's part of where some of the
And I wanna bring
savings
this up
come
real quick.
that
This is
don't
the other area that's
necessarily
very important to be fixed.
reflect so
I'm
obviously,
looking
because
for a
they're
long
in
list of
the
all things
personnel
that are
costs
not
of
working well with the other
BSO,
project, with this particular area,
that
which essentially
aren't
is,
readily
just,
visible,
just
because it's
east
just
of, like,
it's just a
where Will
flat
is, the second
overhead
ward.
cost on each of those
There's a
fire
lot of flooding in this
employees.
area as well. We do believe that we can create additional capacity and holding along this area with initial drains and some reworking
Yeah.
of the road right there. So, I'm just showing this as a
Yeah,
slide.
I understand
This is
BSO
actually
said
something
there are examples where that doesn't seem to hold up, and BSO may be having a retention issue because of salaries. There may be other factors that impact their retention issues. I don't know. There,
Protect your vehicle. You
I
can't
can
protect
tell
your
you
garage. It's not
that
how to blare
there
you.
are
These things
examples,
don't mean
current
if it rains or it
examples,
floods,
where
your car
we
won't
know of
get
a department not
wet.
far from
Your
here that
garage won't
is
get some
paying
wet.
less
Trying to
than
protect
even their
trash
county.
is livable.
And they have multiple
So,
times the number of
I do believe that we have a
applicants.
solution
I
to
think
this
one of
area.
the
We're gonna
things I
incorporate
mentioned
that
earlier,
with additional
just even
improvements
about
to
the
come up
schedule for fire
later this year,
rescue,
but
that is an
this
attractive
will work
incentive
with
for
Blair.
hiring. I think
All right, so let's
if
talk about emergency response.
most people, not just firefighters, would be very happy
However,
working a 24-hour
in an
period and then
emergency,
being off for
you
3
have
days.
to call 911.
That is a schedule
night, you don't
that
have
we
any
have to
calls.
move to because we have to be
Yeah, calls go
competitive
on.
in the recruitment and
If
retention
it's an
market
emergency, you have to
with
call 911.
Boca, with some of the northern ones, and
The second
certainly
thing
if
is
Palm
sign
Beach
up
and
for our
Dade County
DSPs,
switch to that
sign up for our
same
social
staffing model. So
Like, that's where you're
those
gonna
things
go.
are, we have to
When
do.
water breaks, it happens, we have other things that are going on, it's on your phone, you're gonna find out about it.
What
So
about
please
the
sign up for those things.
We went through all that already.
Tell us things about hurricanes, storm
Oh my
events.
God.
That's my question.
Those have to be changed whether or not we go with BSO or not.
Why has the city let them
Right, so we updated
go?
our
Oh my
website,
God.
you know, the information on who to call.
Exactly.
That's a great question.
To work. That's gonna be another mill, or
That's-
2 mills, or 3 mills that you're putting on us by getting rid of.
Those have to be, either way,
So
those have to be replaced.
It's so hard to run the city.
Work in October of 27, when they're working out of dilapidated buildings that the city has let go for years and
I
years
agree.
and years.
I agree, the city has let them go for
Well,
years and
then
years
now
and
you're
years.
putting us in another red hole.
But that red hole was going to be anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so we really need to talk about 8th Avenue. There are a
matter.
lot of people who have waited for that. So we're gonna go on to 8th Avenue now.
Okay. Good job.
So,
I have a question.
what, Howard?
Howard,
Howard.
5 fire stations right now.
Yes, sir.
3 of them should be torn down.
Yes,
And
sir.
rebuilt. Nobody's talking about that 120.
Whether we're with BSO or not, we gotta
That's
update.
extra money on top of.
It's extra money either way.
To spend.
It's extra money, no matter if we stay with BSO or not.
We got 3 examples here to talk about, okay?
No, we're gonna talk about 8th Avenue now.
I don't think my chance is.
You've had your chance, and we've talked on this subject for over an hour, and these individuals have been very patient. So we can talk afterwards if you want. So the 8th Avenue Storm Drainage Project. Okay, first and foremost, you got that going? The city is in a lawsuit, so we can't talk about a lot of the details as far as what went right, what went wrong in that project. So I just want everybody to know that. The landscaping program, I know